At 7 in the morning, Harper Sterling finished cooking Sawyer Langley's favorite porridge, pairing it with fried eggs and warm milk. At 12 noon, Harper prepared 4 dishes and a soup tailored to Sawyer's tastes. When she learned he couldn't make it back, she braved the winter storm and heavy snow to deliver it to his lab at the university. At 7 in the evening, Harper drew a bath for Sawyer and laid out his pajamas. She sat with a table of cold dishes until midnight, nodding off until her head hit the table with a thud. The pain brought a mix of grievance and anger. The 12-hour time difference between here and home was brutal. Harper never managed to adjust to it. She survived solely on the stubborn determination of waiting for Sawyer. But what angered her was that Sawyer had lied to her again tonight. Yet, when the doorbell rang, Harper rushed to open it with a heart full of joy. She took Sawyer's coat, arranged his slippers, reheated the cold dishes, and served them again. From knowing nothing about domestic chores to becoming proficient in just 3 months, she had done it all for him. Sawyer not only accepted everything she did without resistance, but he also seemed to take it for granted. Moreover, he seemed to be in a good mood tonight, occasionally giggling at his phone as if chatting with someone. Even when Harper spoke to him, Sawyer turned a deaf ear, his eyes glued to the screen. Harper felt that although they had only been abroad for 7 months, Sawyer seemed to have changed completely since they reunited. Despite this, Harper put those thoughts aside and spoke carefully. "You have a lot going on in the lab recently. You work until midnight every day. What if you ruin your health? You promised to take me out for dinner, but you stood me up for ages." Harper's complaint was as faint as a mosquito's buzz. She was afraid Sawyer would hear it, yet afraid he wouldn't. Hearing this, Sawyer didn't even lift his head. "You know how much work I have in the lab. I told you long ago I don't have time to keep you company every day. You were the one who insisted on following me here. If you're not used to life abroad, I can send you back. As for the Sterling family, I'll explain it to them myself." Hearing that Sawyer wanted to send her away, Harper grabbed him and shook her head frantically. "Sawyer, listen to me. I didn't mean that." Facing Harper's touch, Sawyer was incredibly resistant. He shook Harper off, accidentally knocking over the food. The sticky liquid splashed all over both of them. Harper was thrown heavily to the floor. Sawyer, who had severe germophobia, put down his phone and dug out a change of clothes. Before entering the bathroom, Sawyer gave Harper an ultimatum. "Harper, we're both adults now. We should have our own lives instead of you clinging to me like this. I can't give you the answer you want. I have always treated you only as a sister. I hope you have some self-awareness. Before next Monday, I will personally send you back to the country." Hearing this, Harper's heart felt desolate. The mess on the floor and the shattered porcelain seemed to mock her openly. But why? Harper had been clinging to Sawyer since she was 10. Sawyer came from a poor background, and the Sterling family had sponsored him. That same year, Sawyer came to their house to express his gratitude. When she saw the shy, self-conscious, yet gentle and handsome boy with the local specialties he brought, Harper suddenly found him very interesting and uncontrollably wanted to get close to him. Since then, they went to school together, ate together, and lived in the same house. Sawyer naturally took on the responsibility of taking care of Harper. Just like that, day by day, he raised the little girl who clung to him. Under Sawyer's meticulous care, Harper's first love blossomed, and her heart began to stir. At 16, Harper confessed her feelings to Sawyer, but was rejected because she hadn't grown up yet. At 18, Harper tried again. Sawyer didn't refuse, but he didn't accept either, saying only that when he was capable, he would give Harper a complete answer. At 20, Harper pressed Sawyer for an answer, but Sawyer said he only treated Harper as a sister and had no romantic thoughts about her. From then on, Sawyer maintained a plain and polite demeanor toward Harper in front of others, but at certain times, he would deliberately create ambiguity with her. This continuous, extreme push and pull, the feeling of never getting an answer, nearly suffocated Harper. When she heard Sawyer was going abroad to develop his career, despite knowing his attitude, Harper still followed him with uncontrollable enthusiasm. The current result was within Harper's expectations. She just wasn't reconciled. Why didn't Sawyer tell her to have self-awareness the first time she confessed? Why did he give her hope again and again, only to stomp it into pieces right in front of her? Harper didn't know how long she sat on the floor, until Sawyer's phone rang. Harper didn't have the energy to answer, but when she saw the contact name Nina, Her eyes went blank for a moment. Then, as if possessed, she pressed the answer button. A cheerful and jubilant female voice instantly came from the other side. "Sawyer, how's the apartment hunting going? If it really doesn't work out, I'll have to go to a host family, boo-hoo, but a host family is fine too. After all, your sister is at your place, and it would be inconvenient for me to move in." "Hello, why aren't you talking? Are you angry?" "Oh, let me explain. It's not that I don't want to live in your house." Harper didn't have the courage to listen to the last sentence. She had heard the name Nina Chandler. She was the partner Sawyer spoke of, a trustworthy associate, a friend with a pure relationship. Harper had believed every word Sawyer said, but in the end, Sawyer wanted to force her to leave because he was in a hurry to make room for Nina. Since she was such an eyesore in Sawyer's eyes, then let him have his wish. In the dead of night, Harper listened to the sound of water running in the bathroom. After hesitating for a moment, she composed herself and called her mother. "Mom, I miss you a little. Let's go traveling together when I get back." Beatrice Sterling on the other end of the line seemed to have expected this. Her calm tone carried a hint of frustration at her daughter's lack of ambition. "Why do you suddenly want to come back? Did that kid Sawyer make you suffer? You'd be better off with the marriage partner I picked for you. His family background, personality, and education are all excellent. I'll send you his photo. You'll definitely like him. You won't even have to worry about the wedding preparations. Apply for a new passport and come home. Take this time to think about it, okay?" Hearing her mother's comfort, Harper's eyes stung. She didn't want her parents to have a bad opinion of Sawyer. Over the years, she rarely showed her grievances in front of her mother, yet her mother sensed something was wrong with just 2 sentences. Did Sawyer, who had been with her for nearly 10 years, really not know her grievances? No, he just didn't care. That was why he could say anything and didn't care about Harper's feelings at all. Harper made this call for 2 reasons. 1, she was determined to give up on Sawyer and return to the country. 2, she wanted to go back and develop her own career. Since her confession at 16, she had trapped herself in a prison for Sawyer. But this year she was 26, it was time to move forward. Harper remained silent for a long time. Her mother spoke again. "I'll handle the company you prepared for that kid as well." Hearing this, Harper gave a low hum of agreement. At this moment, Sawyer happened to come out of the bathroom. "Handle what company?" Harper quickly hung up the phone and looked up at Sawyer indifferently. How should she explain it to him? When Harper came to Sawyer for an answer, she thought that if she and Sawyer could have a future, she would give him a subsidiary of the Sterling Group to manage. But Sawyer only treated her as a sister, so they wouldn't have a future. From now on, their relationship would gradually drift apart from this moment, becoming plain until it completely disappeared. So, Harper didn't need to tell Sawyer the truth. "Nothing, you heard wrong." Hearing Harper's words, Sawyer didn't think much of it. When he turned to dry his hair, he caught a glimpse out of the corner of his eye that the person Harper was contacting was Beatrice Sterling. He frowned imperceptibly, but said nothing. But when he finished drying his hair, he found Harper was still messaging Beatrice, her fingers tapping rapidly on the keyboard as if recounting her grievances. In an instant, the look he gave Harper was as cold as if looking at a stranger. "Harper, you don't need to move out. I'll give this apartment to you." "What are you telling Mrs. Sterling now? Are you saying I'm making you move out? Do you think doing this is interesting? I told you long ago that our affairs don't need outsiders meddling. Do you not understand English, or do you just refuse to grow up?" Harper was stunned for a moment by his sudden anger before realizing the outsider Sawyer referred to was her mother. But when Harper liked him in the past, her mother not only contributed money and effort to help him, but also spared no effort to cultivate him. Now, her ordinary chat with her mother was seen by Sawyer as an outsider meddling. For the first time, Harper couldn't understand him. He had countless opportunities to say such things before. What unspeakable reason made him hold it in until now to say it? Harper slowly raised her eyes, her gaze incredibly calm. "Sawyer, are you really angry because I said something to Mom? I want to hear the truth." Sawyer was stunned, his mind racing. He was no longer that powerless boy. Why couldn't he shake off his past as a charity case? He actually panicked over Harper's most ordinary actions, just like the caution and fear of provoking the Sterling family's anger in the past. After thinking for a moment, he rubbed his brow irritably. "I was too emotional, don't take it to heart. I just don't want to make things awkward for everyone over this. That's why I didn't want you to say too much to Mrs. Sterling." He spoke too calmly, as if discussing the weather. How could Harper not know this was an excuse? But it was indeed awkward. After all, everyone in the Sterling family knew that to pursue him, Harper had given up everything domestically to go overseas. After going through untold hardships to get such an answer, in the end, the only person embarrassed from beginning to end was her, Harper Sterling. But her face remained calm and her tone was faint. "It doesn't matter. Since we've made it clear, it's fine. No one will give you a hard time. You don't need to send me off. I'll leave on my own." Perhaps because she intended to leave, Harper didn't want to trace back Sawyer's hidden reasons anymore. Bringing up the past would only make her rejoice that she had once been brave. The next day was the weekend. Harper slept until 3 in the afternoon. Sawyer had gone out early. He didn't say where he went, but Harper knew he went to find Nina Chandler and tell her the good news that she could move in. After all, Sawyer had reminded her last night that he was bringing his girlfriend back. But Harper didn't have time to think about that. She had other things to do. Taking advantage of the ample time, she sorted out all her belongings, only to find there were very few of her own. The rest were all things she had bought for Sawyer under various excuses. Couple mugs, dolls, and handicrafts she pestered him to win, ties, watches, and razors she gave him. Cosmetics Sawyer gave in return. In her eyes, these were treasures, carefully selected and purchased. Sawyer turned a blind eye to them, his emotions always so cold. He had never even looked at them once. Those gifts were thrown aside, some had even gathered a thick layer of dust. But it didn't matter. These things wouldn't be eyesores to Sawyer anymore. Harper moved the things outside the door. As she turned to go upstairs, a horn sounded behind her. Turning around, she saw Sawyer carrying a suitcase, standing by the car as if waiting for someone. Soon, a girl stepped out of the car. Harper was stunned. This was her first time seeing Nina Chandler. She heard Nina came from a poor background, studied her way out of the mountains step by step, and relied on sponsorship to study abroad to get where she was today. Nina had a pair of almond eyes as moist as a deer's, chestnut curly hair draped casually, and skin like white porcelain. She wore no jewelry, just a simple white lace dress that made her look very spirited. Seeing her, the other party approached Harper with a smile like an old friend and linked arms with her. "You must be Sawyer's sister, Harper, right? I'm Sawyer's girlfriend, Nina Chandler. I used to hear Sawyer mention you often. I wanted to meet you before but never had the chance. I finally met you, but you're leaving. What a pity." Harper glanced at Sawyer and smiled silently. If she hadn't accidentally answered the phone, she wouldn't have known how long Sawyer intended to keep it from her. If Nina hadn't mentioned these things, she wouldn't have known that long ago Sawyer had introduced her to others using the title of sister. Harper didn't speak again. The atmosphere gradually became heavy. Nina put away her smile, bit her lip, clutched the hem of her clothes, and looked anxious. "Sawyer, I told you before, my moving in rashly interferes with your sibling's life. After all, Harper has lived with you for so many years. She will definitely be unhappy. Maybe I should just leave." Sawyer immediately stopped her and comforted her. "Harper won't be angry. Besides, you are my girlfriend. We will get married sooner or later. Why care about those opinions? Don't worry about this." Watching this scene, Harper finally spoke, a smile hovering on her lips. "Yes, why would I get angry over something so small? After all, the mistress of this house was Nina, never her, Harper Sterling." Once the sentence came out, Sawyer stopped talking. He seemed afraid Nina would really leave, so he immediately moved the luggage into the bedroom and arranged everything methodically. When he was about to cook, Nina acted coquettishly, claiming she was tired and wanted to eat out. Facing her request from just now until now, Sawyer just lovingly ruffled her hair, his tone filled with a tenderness Harper had never heard before. Okay, whatever you say." Watching this scene, Harper remained silent. She remembered when she pestered Sawyer, he always seemed reticent and nonchalant. Harper thought he was always like that, but actually, he was only like that to her. She lowered her eyes and said nothing, but Nina took the initiative to link arms with her. "Then, it's decided. I heard the restaurant in Chinatown is quite good. I invited a few friends. Harper, why don't you join us?" Harper withdrew her hand and stood up. "No need, I'm not hungry." Nina's smile froze. Sawyer immediately looked at Harper, frowned, and said in a displeased tone, "Harper, Nina invited you to dinner out of kindness. If you don't want to go, fine, but who are you showing this attitude to?" Seeing him about to scold her, Nina quickly stopped him. "Don't be like this, Sawyer. Harper still has grievances in her heart. Don't blame her. I don't want your kindness to be wasted like this." Watching the two of them echoing each other, Harper remained expressionless. If she still liked Sawyer, his words could indeed affect her emotions, but now Harper treated it as watching a play. "It's me who doesn't know what's good for me. You guys finish talking and go. The restaurant is about to close." Since their honest talk last night, Harper had visibly changed. Facing her submissive appearance, Sawyer felt inexplicably unaccustomed, but ultimately said nothing. After all, this result was exactly what he wanted, wasn't it? But watching her back, Sawyer felt inexplicably strange and called out to her like a ghost. "Harper, didn't you apply for postgraduate studies? If you really don't want to leave, you can continue living here. But since we've made things clear, we will continue to interact as brother and sister. There must be no crossing the line." Harper smiled sarcastically. Applying for studies was just a cover to accompany him. But Sawyer once again made her unable to see through him. He clearly rejected her so solemnly and heartlessly so Nina could move in. Logically, he should be happy to hear she was leaving. Now, making up reasons in front of Nina to ask her to stay, what was that about? Harper didn't flatter herself, but she was suddenly curious. What exactly was Sawyer plotting? But the next second, Sawyer held Nina's hand and said in a deep voice, "This was Nina's idea. Originally, I didn't agree, but she felt guilty and discussed it with me many times. Don't overthink it." Nina also nodded, smiling sweetly. "Yes, Harper. Besides, our engagement is very complicated, and there are many things I can't find anyone to discuss with. Why don't you stay and help me? I can also take the opportunity to get to know my future sister-in-law." Harper was dazed for a moment. She really hadn't expected it. So Sawyer said all this for Nina. Just as Harper was about to refuse, she was dragged out the door. Along the way, Sawyer chatted with Nina about everything, seemingly very familiar with the surrounding terrain. Halfway through the conversation, Nina suddenly seemed to remember something, turned back and smiled at Harper. "Harper, you surely haven't been here before, right? This is where Sawyer and I often date. Every time I come here, I remember the scene when he confessed to me. I got so absorbed chatting with him that I almost forgot about you. I'm sorry." Hearing these sentences, Harper looked at Nina. Actually, from the first glance, Harper felt Nina was similar to her, yet completely different in every way. After all, she wouldn't learn housework or try to cook dishes that suited his taste just to please Sawyer. When she wanted to know what Sawyer was doing, she asked but never got an answer. Now she didn't want to trace it back, but the answers were popping up bit by bit. Thinking about it felt ironic. Harper thought for a moment and gave a faint mmHmm. "It's fine. It's my first time here and also the last." Before Nina could speak, Sawyer frowned, his tone slightly sinking. "Nina was just caring about you. What nonsense are you spouting to ruin the scenery? If you don't want to eat properly, go back." Did she want to eat this meal? Wasn't it Nina who forcibly dragged her out to show off their sweetness in front of her? Unsurprisingly, Nina pulled at the hem of Sawyer's clothes, anxious to the point of tears. "Sawyer, please don't have a conflict with Harper because of me. After all, I am the outsider. Let's eat first. My friends have booked a private room and are waiting for us." Her voice became more choked as she spoke, and the tip of her nose had turned red. Sawyer pulled her into his arms, his eyes revealing distress. The two embraced in the street, as if no one else existed. When Sawyer looked at her again, it was as if Harper had committed a heinous crime. Harper smiled indifferently and turned to walk into the restaurant. She had long figured it out. For someone who didn't like her, everything she did was wrong. The so-called friends inside the private room were mutual friends of Nina and Sawyer. The classmates and friends Harper had wanted to meet to understand Sawyer better in the past, but whom he never agreed to introduce to her. Now she met them all, but only because Sawyer and Nina were announcing their engagement. Come to think of it, it was ironic twist of fate. They ate enthusiastically during this meal. The sound of clinking glasses and words of blessing and congratulations reached Harper's ears clearly. But she remained silent from start to finish, sitting quietly on the side and listening, as if it had nothing to do with her. "Congratulations, Sawyer, I said you and Nina were destined back, then she is similar in age to you, and her experiences are so similar, stepping up bit by bit like this. Now seeing you guys getting engaged, it's truly a match made in heaven. Back when you hadn't achieved results yet, she dared to stand up and speak for you. When you drank until you had gastric bleeding for a partnership, she took care of you for 3 days and 3 nights. When you were stubborn and refused to apologize to your mentor, she begged for the opportunity on your behalf. There are so many things, don't you forget them. You must cherish Nina, or we won't let you off. Every item recounted how much Nina loved Sawyer to the extreme, but these were things Harper hadn't not done. Unfortunately, no matter how much she gave, Sawyer couldn't see it. Sawyer responded with a smile and said, "Of course, Nina is pure-hearted and kind. She is the light I have been searching for. I will only treat her well in this life." Nina was teased until she was shy. Blushing, she told everyone to stop making a fuss. "There's still an outsider here. Stop it, guys." Everyone present was invited and more or less connected. They were savvy people, so how could they not understand this was polite talk? Thus, the cheering and teasing only grew louder. "Kiss her, don't just stand there, kiss. Young lovers, don't be shy, minors, turn around." These voices were too loud to ignore, as if deliberately narrated for Harper to hear. But from beginning to end, Harper didn't care. Occasionally looking up, it was only to pick up food, tasting it slowly. Harper didn't like white people food to begin with. 1, it lacked the flavor of home, and 2, it couldn't compare to her own cooking. She only blamed herself for impulsively going abroad for Sawyer, but fortunately, she could go back soon. Harper looked up to see Sawyer holding Nina's hand. She buried her blushing face in his arms. Sawyer gently cupped her face, about to kiss her seemingly devoutly. But unexpectedly, when the two stood up, a waiter carrying dishes didn't notice and collided with Nina. As the boiling hot soup was about to splash on her, someone pulled Harper, and she was violently pushed out amid screams. Sawyer pulled Nina into his arms, away from danger. Fortunately, Harper dodged in time, but unexpectedly stepped on the soup and slipped. Broken porcelain instantly cut her fair calves and palms. The stinging pain was like needles, making her gasp. Such an accident startled everyone. "Harper, are you okay?" Seeing this, Sawyer's brows also revealed a rare worry. He reached out to check on Harper, but Nina grabbed him, sobbing softly and crying that she was afraid. Now Sawyer didn't hesitate at all. He rushed to comfort Nina, and the surrounding friends immediately gathered around. "Sawyer, what are you standing there for? Nina must be hurt. Can't you see she's so scared? Why worry about others when you don't care about Nina? Hurry and take her to the hospital to check. We'll handle things here." Hearing this, Sawyer bent down and picked up Nina. Her eyes were full of tears, but she shook her head in refusal. "I'm fine, Sawyer. Don't let things end badly because of me again today. Harper is also seriously injured. Go check on her. You are not only my boyfriend, but also Harper's brother." Only then did Sawyer seem to remember something and looked back at Harper's position. But that spot was already empty. The sink in the restroom was full of water, but it had already been dyed red with blood. Harper used water to clean the soup stains off her clothes and endured the pain to wipe the blood dry. The cuts on her legs were deep and shocking. Fine shards of porcelain were embedded in the flesh, difficult to handle, but Harper had long stopped expecting Sawyer to help her. After all, she and Sawyer had drawn a clear line. Whether it was too painful or something else, even her hands were trembling slightly. Harper wasn't very good at treating wounds and knew they would likely scar. Finally, she took the clothes given by a Chinese shop assistant into the cubicle to change. Just as she was about to come out, rushing footsteps sounded outside the door. Nina is smart after all. Just used a little trick, and Harper ran away with her tail between her legs. When you marry into the Sterling family later and deal with her, won't you have everything you want? Exactly. The Sterling family is a top-tier financial group. Nina, you must hold on tight. As soon as these words came out, Harper recognized them as Nina and her girlfriends from the dinner table. Nina smiled and chimed in, "What's this about marrying or not? I'm doing it all for Sawyer's good. We're all women. How could I not understand Harper's feelings for Sawyer? Isn't it disgusting to like your own brother? So I deliberately asked Sawyer to make her stay, just to let her know that even sibling affection can't compare to me, to let her know who is the most important woman in Sawyer's heart." Didn't she see the scene clearly just now? Sawyer was worried to death seeing you injured, coaxing you the whole time. Just now, afraid you were scared, he even specially booked a psychologist. He didn't ask Harper a single sentence from start to end. She sat alone on the side, like an invisible person. Getting such a huge humiliation, it really makes me laugh. Laughter echoed in Harper's ears one after another, people outside praising Nina wave after wave. Harper didn't take these sharp words to heart at all. A sarcastic smile curled on her lips. Nina wanted to marry into the Sterling family and call the shots. It seemed Sawyer had never clarified his relationship with her from the beginning. But more than this, Harper was curious about how Sawyer would view his long-pursued light if he heard these words. When he found out it was all a lie, would he collapse into despair like she had? Karma is real. Retribution is unfailing. Exactly. If it were me in that situation just now, I would have wished to crawl into a crack in the ground. It's just a pity we didn't see her running away like a beaten dog. While the conversation was still going on, Harper pushed the door open directly. She met their gazes and said calmly, "Then you crawl, I'm not interested." Hearing this voice, Nina and the others turned around. Seeing it was Harper, Nina was stunned for a moment, barely maintaining her smile. "Harper, Sawyer and I were looking for you. I didn't expect you to be here. Did you hear everything we said just now?" Since Nina asked so directly, Harper frankly admitted it. Harper turned on the faucet and asked back faintly, "Which sentence are you referring to? The one about marrying into the Sterling family to call the shots, or discussing how to deal with me?" Nina's face was incredibly embarrassed, and her best friends were even more exasperated. The one with the fiery temper cornered Harper directly. Seeing this, Nina didn't bother pretending anymore and sneered. "So what if you heard? Did liking your own brother for so many years get you anywhere? Besides, if Sawyer really had you in his heart, he wouldn't have ignored you just now. Do you think he will believe your words? So what if you're a sister? In Sawyer's heart, you're not as important as a single strand of Nina's hair. Liking your own brother, isn't it disgusting?" Harper still had to rush to the hospital to treat her wounds and really couldn't be bothered to entangle with her. She wanted to bypass Nina to leave, but unexpectedly, Nina fell directly in front of her. At the same time, Sawyer's voice sounded from behind. Nina. Harper looked back at Sawyer. He walked quickly past her to help Nina up, his movements so gentle for fear of hurting her. Nina clutched Sawyer's sleeve with red eyes and leaned close to him, sobbing softly. "Sawyer, don't blame Harper. I said something wrong, and she acted in a fit of anger. Anyway, don't blame her." Even if Harper wanted to play dumb and watch the show, she understood what Nina wanted to do. After all, from Sawyer's perspective, it looked exactly like she pushed Nina down. Nina was so important in Sawyer's heart. How could he bear for her to be wronged? Sawyer's face darkened, and he accused her. "Harper, don't make excuses. I saw it all with my own eyes." Apologized to Nina immediately. Looking at the man in front of her, Harper suddenly found it funny. Actually, these little tricks were worn out long ago. A little thought would reveal the truth. But you can't wake up a person who insists on playing dumb. Harper wouldn't pay for things she hadn't done, nor did she want to prove herself to someone she was destined to say goodbye to. For her, every day now was a countdown to returning home, and she just wanted to spend it simply and easily. She chuckled lightly, very indifferently. "Ah, I'm sorry." Sawyer was slightly stunned. He originally thought Harper would refuse or argue with him, but the contradictory result made him uncomfortable, as if something was gradually escaping his control. He said in a deep voice, "Harper." Harper turned back. Sawyer hesitated, then said, "Come with me to take Nina to the hospital. After all, she got hurt because of you." Harper revealed the shocking wound on her calf. "Have you forgotten? I'm injured too." Sawyer was choked into silence for a moment. Harper turned and left the door, heading straight for the pharmacy. By the time she finished treating the wound, it was late at night, so she booked a hotel room outside and fell into a deep sleep. When she woke up the next day, it was already afternoon. Harper wanted to check the time. Turning on her phone, a message from Nina popped up, saying she and Sawyer took advantage of the time before the engagement to go traveling, along with various lovey-dovey photos. How could Harper not know she sent them deliberately for her to see? Previously, Harper loved traveling and various sports, but Sawyer always had various reasons to refuse her. Either afraid or very busy, but actually, he just didn't want to accompany her. Harper smiled self-mockingly and bought herself a mountain bike and a racing car. For the next few days, she immersed herself wholeheartedly in speed and passion, wantonly venting the accumulated emotions in her heart, until Beatrice Sterling called. "Harper, I sent you the photos and wedding information. Your fiancé heard you're coming back and ordered a lot of gifts waiting for you. Take some time to pick out wedding dresses and jewelry you like so you can come back early to meet him." Harper knew organizing a wedding was troublesome, but the process in the document was meticulous and appropriate, showing that the other party was extremely attentive. Harper stopped hesitating and rushed back that night to get her luggage. Nina and Sawyer didn't seem to be back yet. As soon as she opened the door, the living room was so deserted that only scattered moonlight remained, but the air was filled with a vague smell of alcohol. Unexpectedly, after turning on the light, Sawyer was sitting in the living room, as if waiting for someone. Hearing the sound, he looked up at Harper, then saw the suitcase by her hand, his tone vaguely displeased. "Where have you been these past few days?" Harper came back to her senses and perfunctorily said a few words, went bungee jumping, racing, skiing, played outside for a few days. Sawyer rubbed his brow. "Harper, how did you become like this? It was just asking you to apologize to Nina. Was it necessary to play the missing and disconnected card to vent your dissatisfaction? Nina was exhausted for days looking for you. Where are you preparing to go now?" By the end, his tone even carried a hint of blame. Not sure if he was blaming her for deliberately disappearing or blaming her disconnection for causing Nina to suffer. Hearing these accusations, Harper couldn't help but sneer. She hadn't changed from beginning to end. She restrained her nature for Sawyer. Did she not even have her own freedom now? Then, when she went back to get married, wouldn't Sawyer say she was crazy if he knew? Harper was too lazy to waste words with him and turned to go upstairs. But the room seemed locked and wouldn't open no matter what. Perhaps she was too focused on the door. Harper didn't notice when Sawyer walked behind her at all, until Sawyer pushed her. Caught off guard, Harper's head slammed violently against the door frame. Sharp pain instantly pierced her forehead. Harper covered the wound in pain, looking at Sawyer with eyes full of confusion. The next second, Sawyer suddenly approached her, his hot breath spraying on her face. Harper knew Sawyer was drunk from the moment she entered the door just now. Perhaps alcohol was at work. Sawyer's actions became bolder. He held Harper's slender and soft waist, one hand gradually extending downwards, the other lifting her chin, wanting to kiss her. "Nina," hearing Nina's name, Harper only paused for a second. Then she pushed Sawyer away forcefully and calmly straightened her clothes that had wrinkled just now. Just as she was stunned thinking about how to handle Sawyer, the bedroom door suddenly opened. Nina and she looked at each other. Harper laughed self-mockingly in her heart. No wonder she couldn't open the room. It turned out this place no longer belonged to her. Nina was stunned for a moment seeing her, then looked at Sawyer lying on the ground, her tone wary. "Harper, why are you back now? What did you do to Sawyer?" "I saw him drunk downstairs calling your name, so I kindly brought him up." Harper lied without flushing or skipping a beat, turned, and went into the guest bedroom to rest. When she came out the next day, she saw Sawyer sitting in the living room. Seeing he had no intention of asking for a long time, Harper pretended nothing happened. Perhaps because she was about to leave, she was indifferent to everything. When Harper finished breakfast and was about to go out, Sawyer suddenly called her. "About last night you were drunk and mistook me for Nina Chandler." Harper explained before him. From beginning to end, she was plain and relaxed, as if discussing an insignificant trivial matter. Sawyer rubbed his brow, his tone filled with doubt and suspicion. "I mistook you for Nina. Wasn't it you who deliberately ran into Nina's room?" In the past, Harper would have tried to argue, striving to prove her innocence. But she understood the blame in his tone. He was saying that if she hadn't gone to Nina's room, how could he have mistaken her and let this happen? And he seemed to have forgotten that Harper had lived in that room first. A sarcastic smile curled on Harper's lips. "Moving things. Making space." Sawyer frowned just as he was about to ask why. Nina walked out of the room. "Sawyer, did you tell Harper about the engagement party? Let her come with me to choose jewelry. After all, it's for the engagement party. I believe her taste is much better than yours. Besides, apart from Harper, your family is all in China. We'll go back to hold the wedding after arranging things here." Harper could see that Sawyer liked Nina very much. She didn't expect they were getting engaged. But she suddenly recalled the incident in the restroom, and after thinking carefully for a moment, she ultimately didn't poke through this layer of paper. Simply put, Harper didn't want to be involved in anything related to Sawyer anymore. In front of Sawyer, Nina was still close to her. "Harper, come with us. It's a pity not to see foreign goods. I still want your advice." Harper originally wanted to refuse, but remembered she was getting married too. Her mother had specially instructed her to choose a few sets of jewelry she liked, so she agreed. Manhattan is the busiest commercial and financial center. The crowd surged like a tide, and the high-rise buildings on both sides were lit like neon. Sawyer led Nina in front, and Harper followed quietly behind. When they arrived at the shop, the clerk brought out the jewelry Sawyer had reserved. Even though they communicated in English, Harper could understand. The clerk was congratulating Nina and Sawyer on their love, boasting that the jewelry was surviving remnants from the last century. Having survived war and artillery fire without being destroyed, it symbolized love as hard and fierce as diamonds. One set was worth millions, truly precious. Nina blushed more and more as she listened. Sawyer smilingly put the necklace on her, pulled her into his arms, and leaned down to kiss her gently. Surrounded by sounds of blessing, Harper stood quietly in the corner, looking at her passionate 16-year-old self. But now she was 26. There was no need to cling to the past. She was going back to get married too. She should choose a set for herself. Perhaps seeing her engrossed in choosing, Nina approached curiously, smiling yet not smiling. "Harper, do you want to buy too? But these are used for weddings." Harper lied without blinking, returning to the country in a few days to attend a friend's wedding, bringing a gift back along the way. Hearing this, Sawyer rarely asked, "Who is your friend?" Harper thought back. "Surname Montgomery, a friend of my parents." After all, it was the fiancé chosen by her parents, so there was nothing wrong with saying that. If it were the past, Sawyer would have believed it, but he knew Harper's friends clearly. Currently, they were either developing careers or inheriting family businesses. How did news of someone getting married suddenly pop up? But hearing it was a matter behind the Sterling family, Sawyer dispelled the doubts in his heart and handed several sets of precious and exquisite jewelry to Harper. Harper looked up at him in confusion. Sawyer looked away and explained faintly, "Don't put your mind on places it shouldn't be in the future. If you're going back, have fun for a few days. Just so happens we're choosing accessories for Nina. Consider these gifts for your friend and Mrs. Sterling." She understood the sarcasm in his words, but remained silent. More important than this was that Sawyer had never given her a gift in all these years. Yet he chose a day like today to give her the things Nina discarded as gifts. Instantly, a strong sense of irony surged in her heart, which she suppressed with a deep breath. Harper looked at the jewelry, a trace of sarcasm flashing in her eyes. Seeing Harper not speaking, he added, "Tell me when you come back after attending the wedding." "Come back." Harper didn't speak, but silently said in her heart she wouldn't come back. Seeing Harper silent for a long time, Sawyer thought she didn't like it. Just as he was about to ask her, a violent noise erupted outside. The next second, the glass outside the jewelry store was smashed by several masked men. Harper knew that security abroad wasn't like at home. Unexpected accidents happened from time to time. And not far from the city center here, there were rough neighborhoods. She heard that crimes for money were common, but Harper never thought such a thing would happen to her. Harper was closest to the door. She wanted to run, but was violently knocked away, with a loud bang. Harper's head smashed unexpectedly into a pile of broken glass. The pain of tearing flesh left her speechless. Her world spun, and darkness appeared before her eyes. The blood-stained shards beneath her were even more shocking. Harper Sawyer in the distance saw this scene, his pupils shrinking. He quickly let go of Nina and wanted to come over. But Nina cried out, "Sawyer, don't leave, I'm so scared." Sawyer hesitated for a moment, but seeing Nina's pitiful appearance, he didn't hesitate to walk straight to Nina. The scene Harper saw when she opened her eyes was Sawyer holding the scared, crying Nina tightly. After the masked men stole the jewelry and fled, Sawyer picked up Nina, preparing to send her to the hospital. Just as he was walking out the door, Sawyer seemed to remember something. He looked back at Harper with a guilty face. "Nina is my fiancée. I'll take her to the hospital first. It's not far from here. You can take a taxi yourself, or I'll send someone to pick you up later." Harper didn't care about his dispense charity. Sawyer thought Harper's silence meant she was angry with him. He frowned. At a time like this, you're still throwing a tantrum. Didn't you see Nina is seriously injured? She is my fiancée. I must prioritize taking care of her. I'll compensate you when I get back. Compensate her with what? With the lies of ambiguity spanning decades. With blaming her indiscriminately every time, ignoring explanations, stubbornly thinking she was wrong, and forcing her to admit and apologize. Or throwing things others discarded at her like trash, then saying sweet words, hoping she would be grateful. Harper couldn't afford these compensations anymore, and she didn't need them anymore. She shook her head and forced a smile. No need, you take her to the hospital. Seeing her indifferent appearance again, Sawyer suppressed the rising irritation in his heart. Saying no more, he left Harper behind, holding Nina and leaving straight away. She took a while to recover on the spot before staggering up. At the same time, the police arrived, processed the scene, and sent her to the hospital. The doctor wrapped Harper's head in 3 layers of gauze, applied medicine to the wounds on her body scraped by glass shards, and instructed her to rest quietly and not move around after going home. Harper clutched the hem of her clothes in pain and hummed a low agreement. Finally, she thanked the doctor and walked out limping with the medicine. But at the corner, she saw Sawyer and Nina. Nina looked up and their eyes met. Nina was stunned, then smiled slightly. Harper, why are you at this hospital too? Who brought you here? Finished bandaging so soon. Blame Sawyer for being too scared about my accident and forgetting you. I already scolded him just now. Harper didn't have time to play these games. She checked her phone and perfunctorily said a sentence. Yeah, finished bandaging. I'm going home first. Sawyer frowned and pressed. It's so late. Do you want me to drive you back? Just as Harper was about to speak, a female voice sounded from behind. Sawyer Langley, are you crazy? Your fiancée is injured with no one to take care of her, and you're not anxious, but rushing to send another woman home? What kind of fiancé does that? If you don't treat Nina well, don't blame us for being rude. Harper recognized this as Nina's girlfriends. They were sparing no effort to stand up for Nina. They were waiting for Harper to refute, but unexpectedly, Harper nodded along. I think they make sense. You stay and take care of your fiancé. I'll have no problem going back by myself. Seeing her so cold again, Sawyer couldn't help but frown. He remembered Harper shouldn't be like this. Even if he lost his temper with her before or was cold to her in various ways, her heart and eyes were full of him. It wouldn't be this cold and indifferent attitude. When did she start to change? She wasn't angry that he saved Nina instead of helping her. Sawyer wanted to continue questioning, but Nina tugged at the corner of his clothes. Sawyer, I don't feel well. I want to sleep. Hearing this, Sawyer disregarded everything else and anxiously helped her back to the room, but hesitated for a moment when turning around. Harper, let me know when you get home. Harper nodded, watching Sawyer leave, then turned and left the place. Ding dong, the phone received a message that the driver had arrived at the destination, but there was a distance Harper needed to walk herself. She was indeed going home, but not Sawyer's home. At 16, because of love, she chased after Sawyer. For his illusory answer, for this ending without a disease, she trapped herself in place year after year, but got endless embarrassment in return. But now, Harper wanted to move forward, and everything about Sawyer Langley from now on had nothing to do with her. After the transfer, Harper landed safely in Capital City. From a distance, Harper saw her mother, Beatrice, and best friend, Zoe Shaw, waiting for her. Seeing her affectionate family and friend, Harper's eyes soured, and she unconsciously quickened her pace. When she got closer, Zoe noticed her gauze-wrapped arm and immediately became serious. Tell me clearly, did Sawyer do something to you? How did you get hurt? I said he wasn't a good thing, but you insisted on following him. Harper knew Zoe hated Sawyer. Seeing Zoe about to explode, Harper smiled lightly and took out her phone, then pulled out the SIM card and threw it away in front of her. This series of actions barely pacified her. I have no future with him. You guys can rest assured. Zoe knew Harper best. Seeing her act like this, she snorted coldly and stopped talking. Instead, Beatrice smiled like a flower, coaxing Harper. My dear daughter, since this twisted melon isn't sweet, why not try the tall and handsome sweet melon Mom found for you? Beatrice wouldn't stop until she achieved her goal. Harper perfunctorily said a few sentences, then dragged Zoe to run away. The The two hadn't seen each other for a long time and dived into a bar to catch up. Facing Zoe's curiosity about her and Sawyer, Harper didn't hide anything and told everything that happened abroad. Zoe was resentful after hearing it. That was 10 years of your life. If I were you, I wouldn't want to live, so what if it was 10 years? She hadn't failed the brave self of the past, and that was enough. As for how Sawyer was, Harper didn't want to ask anymore. After all, it was over between him and her. Harper smiled and shook her head, shifting the topic. By the way, Zoe, have you heard of Quinn Montgomery from the Montgomery family? Seeing Zoe didn't move for a long time, Harper knew she was drunk. Just as she wanted to call the driver to pick them up, the bar waiter suddenly said, "Does this lady need my help? Our bar can consider sending drunk people home for free at our discretion." This waiter had been particularly enthusiastic since they entered, but he was a stranger after all. Before she thought of how to refuse, the waiter explained again, "This rule was set by my boss. Miss Sterling doesn't need to worry. I just wanted to ask Miss Sterling, why did you want to inquire about my boss?" Harper was so shocked she didn't know how to speak for a moment. Because Quinn Montgomery was her fiancé, but she didn't know anything about him. Since returning to the country without meeting yet, she was inquiring sideways to prepare. Seeing she didn't speak, a flash of panic crossed the waiter's eyes, and he hurriedly explained, "Our boss has more than this job. He is young and promising, clean living, no bad relationships, no bad habits, loves work, and is positive. Which aspect is Miss Sterling worried about?" Harper was a bit confused. She was just thinking about how to explain. Why did he suddenly sprout this big pile? But thinking carefully, maybe he was afraid that saying the wrong thing would cause her to have a bad impression of Quinn, leading to him losing his job, so he panicked to make up for it. Thinking of this, Harper comforted him. "I'm not worried about anything. Bar owner or other jobs, you have to get along to know the person and experience, don't you?" The waiter looked at her in astonishment and answered her with a smile. "You're right." Harper smiled and nodded, thought for a moment, and said, "Since you said you can send drunk people home, please send us. I'll praise you a lot in front of your boss later." After getting in the car, Harper gave the location and fell asleep. When she woke up, they had arrived. She struggled to carry Zoe and walked slowly towards the villa, remembering halfway that the waiter was still there. "Thank you. You go back, drive safely." But the person behind didn't answer, nor did he mean to leave. Harper felt a bit strange. Just as she wanted to ask if he had anything else, expecting to send Zoe back to the room first, the gate opened. Beatrice looked at her, then her gaze fell behind her, and she exclaimed in surprise, "Quinn." "Harper, why did you come back together?" Quinn Montgomery? This dumbfounded Harper directly. But thinking carefully, she never said her surname was Sterling, and he called her Miss Sterling all night. When she came back to her senses, she happened to crash into his smiling eyes. Quinn also read the helplessness and shock in her eyes. He walked in front of her, squatted down on one knee, and formally and solemnly extended his hand to her. "Hello, Miss Sterling. I didn't have time to introduce myself just now. My name is Quinn Montgomery." Thinking that her discussion about Sawyer with Zoe might have been heard by Quinn, Harper was somewhat at a loss. She smiled awkwardly, blocking her face with one hand and responding to him with the other. "Hello, I am Harper Sterling." Quinn chuckled lightly and comforted her. "Don't worry so much. Like you said, you have to get along to know the person, don't you?" Sawyer guarded Nina for 3 days without leaving. Within these 3 days, he hadn't received a message from Harper saying she arrived home. Sawyer swiped the screen trying to refresh new messages, but Harper was like she had evaporated from the world. It was futile. He stared at the blank screen in a daze. Harper's retreating figure, leaving without nostalgia, flashed through his mind. For the first time, he felt as if something was slowly slipping away uncontrollably, and a panic he had never felt before surged in his heart. Sawyer stood up abruptly, the chair making a harsh sound. Nina was woken up, opened her eyes, and complained, "Sawyer, what are you doing? Standing up so suddenly scared me awake." Sawyer glanced at her faintly and perfunctorily found an excuse. "Clothes are a bit dirty. I'll go back and change before coming. You rest well first, I'll come see you later." Nina clutched the quilt, hesitated for a moment, and pressed, "Are you going back to see Harper?" "But the doctor said my injury hasn't healed yet. There can't be no one guarding me." Hearing this, Sawyer frowned. "You were awake long ago. What did you see?" She was indeed awake long ago. She opened her eyes to see him staring at his phone in a daze, and the name displayed on the screen was Harper Sterling. But she was Sawyer's official fiancée. Her fiancé wanted to find someone else when she was injured. Nina spoke with a grievance in her voice. Clearly you are my fiancé. Why look for another woman when I'm injured? Even if Harper is your sister, so what? She's an adult. She won't get lost. Besides, her not replying to your message is either because she's angry or playing the quiet runaway game like last time. Have you forgotten all this? Hearing this, Sawyer's steps paused. But he didn't stop because of Nina's jealous blame. On the contrary, he felt her words made some sense. Last time, because he asked Harper to apologize to Nina, she appeared to apologize obediently, but actually felt dissatisfied and used disappearance to vent. When she came back and he asked where she went, she just perfunctorily said she played outside for a few days. It was the same this time. She was the one who told him to stay and take care of Nina, and she also personally said she wanted to go home, promising to send him a safety message after arriving. As a result, 3 whole days had passed, and she hadn't returned a single message. The rising irritation gradually turned into anger. Sawyer didn't leave or speak again. He tried asking where Harper was traveling, but Harper didn't reply, and even calls went unanswered. This state lasted until Nina was discharged. Sawyer sat on the sofa, rubbing his brow irritably. He had sent the engagement party invitation to her. Why was Harper still indifferent? Harper clearly loved him so much, loved him enough to give up everything to chase him abroad. She didn't get angry the many times he left her behind. Could it be that, because of the jewelry store incident, she was playing the missing game even more unscrupulously? Until Nina linked arms with him. "Sawyer, let's go, they're waiting for us." Sawyer's thoughts were called back. He looked at the exquisitely dressed Nina and gave a faint MMHMM. In the center of the bustling banquet hall, clinking glasses and noisy cheering were all congratulating the new couple. But seeing this scene, Sawyer felt no waves in his heart. As if the protagonist of the engagement party wasn't him. But he had to kiss the woman deeply amidst the urging, as if only doing so could show love. Sawyer held her face while chatting and laughing. As he gradually approached, he reached out to hold her waist, leaned back and crashed into the champagne tower behind him. Instantly, shards exploded, and splashing wine swallowed the warm atmosphere. What happened? Who put this thing here? Nina, are you okay? Nina shook her head in fear. Because her dress was soaked and had to be changed, otherwise the subsequent segments couldn't proceed, she followed her best friends to the restroom after speaking to Sawyer. Sawyer remained calm, wiping off the wine. 3 or 5 friends gathered around concerned, asking him, "Sawyer, what happened? So careless at the engagement party, can we still continue now?" "Yeah, it's too late to deal with it now." Sawyer lowered his eyes and said faintly, "Since it's ruined, let's not hold it." Seeing him like this, his friend was startled and spoke in shock. "What nonsense are you talking about? How can an engagement party end casually like this? What will Nina think? What about her? Since it's ruined, we won't do it." Seeing his attitude so tough, the friend didn't say much, just sighed. "Sigh, this isn't your fault. Never mind whether to hold it or not. The urgent task is to coax Nina first." Seeing her just now, she seemed scared stiff. Nina didn't know about the cancellation of the engagement party yet. As soon as she changed her clothes and came out, a group of best friends came up to comfort her. How could Sawyer be like this? Almost ruined the engagement party. Does he really want to marry our Nina? On an occasion like today, how did Sawyer make such a big mess? Hearing these words, Nina secretly clenched her palm. If the engagement went smoothly, she wouldn't be far from marrying into the Sterling family. But suddenly this happened, something she hadn't expected herself. Perhaps thinking too deeply, her friends thought she was too sad and hurriedly comforted her. "What nonsense are you talking about? I feel Sawyer didn't mean it. After all, seeing how much he loves Nina, we all saw it. Nina, don't be unhappy. Let's talk about something happy. Does Harper have self-awareness, feeling she can't compare to our Nina, so she refused to come today?" After the sound of running water, Nina gathered her thoughts and picked up their conversation. Why should Harper come? Maybe she left long ago. Nina's unrestrained discussion happened to fall into Sawyer's ears. He was originally coming to notify Nina of the cancellation, but unexpectedly heard about Harper from her mouth. Now he disregarded that it was a women's restroom and barged in. "You said Harper left. Do you know where she went?" Nina was scared stiff. After holding back for a while, she asked, "Sawyer, why are you here?" Sawyer didn't answer her but pressed closely. "Didn't you say she was just throwing a small tantrum like last time?" "Do you know where Harper went?" Nina was stunned. She didn't know Harper's whereabouts, but being a woman too, how could she not understand Harper's mind? It was nothing more than seeing clearly that her brother didn't care about her, getting heartbroken and leaving. Seeing she didn't answer, Sawyer's eyes grew darker with anger and his face sank. "I came to notify you that the engagement party is canceled. If there's nothing else, I'll go back first." After saying this, Sawyer turned and left. He didn't calm down until the car was speeding on the street. Getting home, he immediately opened Harper's room. The moment he turned on the light, he realized the owner of this room was long gone, not Harper. He couldn't find a single trace of Harper at all. Suddenly, he felt defeated. Turning around and seeing the dusty suitcase in the corner, Sawyer's face changed instantly. If he remembered correctly, Harper brought this back. Sawyer carefully recalled that morning. During the argument, Harper said entering the room was to move things and make space. At that time, he wanted to ask why but was interrupted by Nina. Later, he was busy accompanying Nina to choose engagement party items and threw this matter to the back of his mind. Only today did he understand why Harper did it. He opened the box and recognized Harper's clothes at a glance, as well as her favorite accessories and dolls. These were originally placed in Harper's room, but now they lay lonely curled up in the box. Suddenly, as if remembering something, he stood up and found the living room had become empty at some point. The photos originally hanging on the wall, the gifts Harper gave piled in the corner, when did they start disappearing? From the first day Nina came, Harper had thrown these away. Even if Sawyer refused to believe it, seeing the scene before him, he understood Harper had left. Suddenly, he searched frantically in the cabinet for something. The moment he saw Harper's passport was still there, his suspended heart dropped. It seemed that even if Harper left, she was still abroad. But she had no friends here. Where could she go? He put the passport back, but didn't notice the expiration date on it. After pondering for a long time, he recalled Harper said she had been bungee jumping, skiing, and racing. Would she have gone to those places again? Sawyer walked out while taking out his phone. Until the car was speeding wildly on the road, his assistant sent him that there were a total of 11 places for extreme sports in the area, and the locations were far apart. Sawyer gripped the steering wheel tight, his mind filled with thoughts about Harper. Since he didn't know the specific location, he would ask one by one. From dark night turning into the white belly of a fish at dawn, Sawyer ran to nearly 10 places. Every time he queried the staff about Harper's name, it was fruitless. The panic and loss in his heart almost swallowed him. He stared at his phone, remembering the last racing location. Like grabbing the last life-saving straw. Receiving Sawyer was a Chinese clerk. Seeing he was a fellow countryman, the clerk looked serious and took out a form, carefully explaining that foreign extreme sports were too dangerous, and some required signing a life and death decision form. Sawyer got straight to the point. "Actually, I'm here to find someone. Has a girl named Harper come here?" The clerk hesitated for a moment, appearing to remember something. "Harper, seems like there was one." Sawyer's eyes held a trace of hope. "Did she come here recently?" The clerk shook his head silently, turned around, and dug out a form. "Are you Harper's brother or boyfriend?" As soon as this was said, Sawyer was somewhat stunned. What identity did he have now? Before he could respond, the clerk explained, "Her coming here was a long time ago. Here, this is the decision form she signed. Basically, family names are signed, but she told me she had no relatives or friends here, so she didn't sign. Since you came to ask, I'll give this to you." Hearing this sentence, Sawyer understood why the clerk asked about his relationship with Harper. Sawyer took the decision form and saw the place for the family signature at the end was starkly blank. The lights were still not on in the living room, and the air smelled faintly of alcohol. Sawyer sat alone on the sofa. Flickering moonlight reflected on his face, but his gaze stared at the decision form on the table and Harper's expired passport next to it from start to finish, and recalling what the clerk said to him before leaving. Harper said she was going home to attend a wedding and wouldn't come back again. I don't know about other things. But Sawyer understood in his heart. Going home to attend a wedding? Won't come back. He remembered at the hospital, Harper kept saying she wanted to go home. It turned out she meant returning to the Sterling family home. The Sterling family, a top-tier financial group in Capital City. Sawyer was both familiar with and estranged from it. Since he was sponsored by the Sterling family, Beatrice treated him well, regarding him like a son. Mr. Sterling valued his talent and wanted to train him to become a company man. Even the Sterling relatives favored him, throwing olive branches early on. But upon graduating from university, he chose to go abroad to start a business and never asked about the Sterling family's affairs again. Just as he hesitated whether to call Beatrice, the living room light was suddenly turned on by someone. Nina stood at the door, frowning and staring at him. "Are you crazy, Sawyer Langley? You didn't come home for 3 days and 3 nights to find Harper. She's just your sister. I'm your fiancée. You actually ran away at the engagement party for her, leaving me alone?" Sawyer leaving the engagement party unauthorized had spread in the circle. Everyone knew Sawyer loved Nina. Everyone envied and blessed her for having the love of the successor to the Sterling family in Capital City. Since he told her the engagement party was canceled and ran away without a word, Nina had been surrounded by nothing but ridicule and mockery. Her pride shattered, she could hear people discussing her everywhere now. Naturally, Nina couldn't accept it, but Sawyer remained indifferent, just looking her up and down. Why did he get together with her in the beginning? Because of Harper. After all, Nina had a similar experience to him, also from a poor family and raised on sponsorship. Nina was like a copy of himself, and he knew best what a self like that wanted in their heart. Nothing more than craving love and money. He could give these to Nina, and before that, he was using her to test Harper. Sawyer knew Harper liked him enough to want to marry him, but Sawyer stubbornly believed that possessing kinship and blood-related family was more lasting than lovers. He wanted to keep her in the way of a sister. But gradually, he grew thoughts of wanting to test Harper. After all, in this relationship, he seemed to be the emotional superior, the victorious general, the active party controlling the overall situation, but actually, he was the passive one. Passively accepting Harper's love, passively accepting Harper's disgust. Because Harper liked him, he was useful to the Sterling family, and people around him treated him well. At the same time, because Harper liked him, he could get all this. What if Harper didn't like him anymore? Then only traces of being liked by Harper would remain on him. When others saw him, they would immediately think of Harper. Would all his efforts over the years turn into bubbles? He pretended to bring Nina home to see if she would get jealous. He deliberately announced a girlfriend to see how she acted. He approached her drunk to see if she would refuse. He protected Nina in front of her, testing her time and time again. But in the whole process, Sawyer ignored her perverse and unruly character. She was the princess held in the palm of the Sterling family since childhood. How could she be willing to be tested by him again and again? Finally, his tentative nature exhausted her patience. Only when Harper left did he recognize reality, but Nina wouldn't know these things. Conversely, Sawyer knew her thoughts perfectly, including that incident in the restroom. Nina only knew he was a Sterling family person, but didn't know his true identity. She just wanted to marry him wholeheartedly to become the mistress of the Sterling family. Since it was mutual exploitation, then he wouldn't marry her, nor did he need to explain. He casually found an excuse. Harper is my sister after all. I'll be happier with her blessing. Since she's angry and returned to the country, let's talk about the engagement party when I return. Then he turned and went upstairs, calculated the time in the country, found Zoe's phone number, and dialed. It connected quickly, but the tone wasn't good. "Who is this? What's the matter?" Zoe always had a bad attitude towards him, and Sawyer didn't mind. "I know Harper returned to the country." "So?" After a moment of silence, Sawyer spoke softly. "I wanted to ask if she got home safely. Is she busy lately? She hasn't replied to my messages. Please tell her to check when she's free. When she finishes attending the wedding, tell her to pay attention to rest. I'll come back to pick her up then." Harper attending a wedding. A trace of sarcasm flashed in Zoe's eyes. Harper had been by his side for so many years, yet he didn't know anything about her. Getting such an ending, as Harper's friend, she was both distressed and angry. Sawyer came looking, and Zoe didn't indulge him. "Which onion do you think you are to deserve to ask these things? It's good enough I didn't settle accounts with you for all the things you did to hurt Harper. You'd better roll as far away as possible." After a busy tone, the phone screen went black. Sawyer leaned back in the chair, his mind constantly recalling the passionate love when Harper followed behind him asking for an answer. He felt inferior and gloomy, thinking kinship lasted longer than love. After thinking for a while, he called a friend in the jewelry business. Since things hadn't reached the point of no return, he would explain and apologize to her. Then proposed to draw an ending to their 10 years. The other party received the call, and Sawyer got straight to the point. "That pair of diamond rings in the Chamber of Commerce, I want to buy them. Name your price." The other party was also a good friend of Nina. Hearing this, he thought Sawyer had become enlightened and was preparing to buy diamond rings to coax Nina. While teasing, he regretfully said that the pair of diamond rings had been bought by someone at a sky-high price long ago. Sawyer frowned. "Who?" "The Montgomery family in Capital City. Heard it's for a wedding, quite a grand affair." He remembered the family Harper was attending the wedding for was also named Montgomery. Sawyer pondered for a moment, then changed to another pair. "Do you know when the wedding will be held?" "I'm going back to pick someone up." The friend asked hesitantly, "Pick someone up? What about Nina?" Sawyer didn't know why he asked this and perfunctorily said, "My sister is throwing a tantrum and went back to the country. We'll talk about Nina's matter when I return." Far away in the country, Harper didn't know about these things yet. Since returning home, she had lain down until her bones were soft. Harper wanted to work but was sternly refused by Beatrice, claiming it was to let her heal her heartbreak. In reality, it was an excuse to drag her to see the wedding venue and buy things needed for the wedding banquet. After repeated routines, Harper deliberately staggered the time with her mother and asked Zoe out for racing. The two raced a few laps before stopping. Zoe laughed for half a day just hearing Harper's excuse, but immediately she seemed to remember something, and her expression suddenly became serious. "Did you know? Sawyer called me a few days ago asking for your news. He also asked for the wedding address and wanted to come pick you up. Remembering what he did to you, I was so angry I cursed him out and hung up." Hearing Sawyer's name, Harper frowned subconsciously. Zoe told her what she had found out, saying that Sawyer temporarily canceled the wedding banquet that day, left Nina alone there, drove home crazily for a lap, and then didn't return home for 3 days and 3 nights driving the car. It turned out he went to the places Harper had been to. This series of abnormal behaviors didn't seem like Sawyer. After all, when Harper was still there, he wouldn't look for her like this. "Why aren't you talking? Could it be you're really hurt?" Zoe talked to herself for half a day. Seeing Harper silent, she couldn't help worrying. Although she said it jokingly, she was also afraid Harper would really be affected. Harper glanced at her and hummed perfunctorily. Zoe exploded immediately, saying tearfully, "He treated you like that. Why do you still act like this for him? Don't turn back, Grandma, I beg you." Harper laughed out loud. "Teasing you." And she was back in the country. What did a stranger have to do with her? Regardless of what shocking things he did, or if he wanted to apologize to her, Harper felt he was grandstanding. After all, belated deep affection is cheaper than grass. Harper teased Zoe enough, thought carefully, and asked her, "Did you just say Sawyer asked you for the wedding address? Since he wants to come back, send the address to him." Since he wanted to come back to see her so much, what harm was there in meeting? A trace of confusion flashed in Zoe's eyes, and she immediately understood her meaning. The two looked at each other and laughed loudly, agreeing to determine the winner in a few laps. They started the racing cars. At first, they could chat side by side, but in the end, the desire to win took over, leaving only 2 racing cars overlapping and leading. Just as Harper was about to cross the finish line, a sudden racing car sped past her, leading her steadily to land at the finish line. She saw the opponent's technique was good, but was attracted by his car. Just as she wanted to ask that person, it turned out to be Quinn holding a helmet and getting out of the car first. He seemed to see the confusion in her eyes and explained with a faint smile, "Heard my fiancé knows a lot. I was curious and came to see." Harper didn't reject this fiancé, Quinn. He had similar hobbies to hers, and their personalities were compatible. Getting along with her, he would actively take care of her emotions. Slight changes couldn't escape his eyes. Observing her likes and dislikes, playing tricks to amuse her, keeping the distance within a reasonable range. Based on Zoe's inquiries, Quinn was the only son of the Montgomery family. The Montgomery family trained him as a successor, and she was also the successor of the Sterling family. This marriage was beneficial to both parties, but talking about feelings, Harper remained skeptical. Whether it would end without a disease like before was an unknown to her. However, at least she accepted it. Harper smiled and nodded. "You're not bad either, but there must be something else, right?" Quinn didn't hide it, answering her with a smile. "The wedding is in 2 days. Won't my fiancé try on the wedding dress? Maybe there will be one you like inside." When receiving the wedding banquet address sent by Zoe, Sawyer had just got the diamond ring and rushed to the airport. Manhattan in this season already felt cold. He warmed the 2 cool rings in his pocket with his hands. When the phone vibrated, he was still reluctantly rubbing the rings. Taking it out to look, it was the message Zoe resent. "Sawyer, you have to come early on the wedding day. This is a surprise Harper prepared for you personally. I believe you will definitely like it." Prepared by Harper for him, what surprise would it be? Seeing this sentence, his heart beat like a drum, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help rising slightly. Sawyer thought Harper definitely still loved him. She wouldn't be angry with him no matter what, even specially preparing a surprise for him. Once things were explained clearly and he coaxed her, everything would be over, right? Holding this idea, he clenched the ring tightly in his palm. "Sawyer, what are you giggling at?" Hearing Nina's familiar voice, Sawyer's face changed instantly. He turned sideways and saw her bending over to put away her luggage, sitting down beside him without hesitation. "Nina, why are you here?" Nina remembered her friend telling her about Sawyer buying wedding rings. Saying that maybe, he felt guilty for ruining the engagement party last time and prepared to propose to her solemnly. But because Nina talked about Harper behind her back, Sawyer, caught between his fiancée and sister, couldn't let go of the grudge to make peace with her. Since it was like this, she would find him proactively. Nina smiled and hugged him. "My fiancé returned to the country to coax his sister without telling me. Why can't I follow?" Sawyer didn't refute her, casually withdrawing his hand. "I have a name, Sawyer Langley." Nina didn't speak hearing this, sneering coldly in her heart. She didn't want to call him fiancé either. After all, she didn't love him at all. As for who Sawyer coaxed or loved, it had nothing to do with her. Remembering her goal hadn't been achieved yet, remembering the proposal and the Sterling family, her attitude softened, and she obediently nodded and agreed to him. Sawyer didn't care what she thought at all. He just wanted to wait until the dust settled, then he would explain clearly to Nina. When the plane landed in Capital City, Sawyer originally wanted to rush to see Harper immediately, but found he couldn't even get through to her phone, and messaging Zoe yielded no reply. Sawyer gripped his phone tightly. Thinking for a moment, he bought many gifts to visit Beatrice Sterling. Beatrice watched Sawyer grow up. He was polite, motivated, and smart when young, and her daughter liked him so much, so she reluctantly agreed to let Harper pursue him. She didn't expect that due to her oversight, her daughter would be hurt. Now that so many things had happened, looking at the man in front of her, Beatrice's face went cold for the first time. She dismissed all the nannies and servants before speaking slowly. "Is there something wrong, Mr. Langley, to trouble you to come personally?" Sawyer was grateful to the Sterling family. For Mr. and Mrs. Sterling, Sawyer had respect in his heart. After all, they lent a helping hand when he was most difficult, allowing him to achieve what he had today, and entrusted Harper to his care. But what did he do to Harper personally? Facing Beatrice's sarcasm, he just silently accepted it. "Mrs. Sterling, I came because I want to see Harper." Sawyer originally wanted to say he came to pick Harper up to return, but thinking that Beatrice might already know everything, he had no qualification to mention this matter, and finally swallowed the words back. Hearing this, Beatrice opened her mouth after a moment. "Sawyer Langley, I entrusted Harper to you. How did you treat her?" Sawyer opened his mouth, wanting to explain. The sourness in his throat made it hard to speak. When Harper was still by his side, he suspected Harper's love for him. Because he valued the outcome too much, he gave birth to the thought of testing, thus doing all these things that hurt Harper. Even when Harper just lost contact, he thought she was throwing a small tantrum. Until he knew she really left, he realized he was thoroughly wrong, and he had ruined all the beauty he originally possessed with his own hands. Sawyer didn't expect Harper to forgive him now. He just wanted Beatrice to let him see Harper, but Beatrice didn't even look at Sawyer. She took her phone to message Harper, then slowly looked up. "Mr. Langley, please go back. I don't think there's a chance to meet. Harper has been very busy lately." Harper, who had finished trying on wedding dresses over here, didn't know the situation yet. She took off the veil and lay on Zoe's shoulder exhausted, casually put her phone in her bag and left, so she didn't notice her mother's text message. On the way back, Zoe stared at the phone and sneered. "Didn't tell you Sawyer returned to the country today. He messaged me this morning saying he wanted to see you." Harper shook her head. "I'm tired from trying on wedding dresses. Tell him not to come again." She was indeed very tired, not just from trying on wedding dresses. Moreover, they were strangers now. What was there to say if they met again? But on the other side, Sawyer was still begging Beatrice. Beatrice was silent for a moment, then got up and went upstairs. Then she brought out a photo album and placed it in front of Sawyer. It recorded Harper from 1 to 26 years old. But in her 10th year, Sawyer appeared by her side. Since then, he was by her side every year. Even in photos with him, Harper's face couldn't be seen, her heart and eyes were full of Sawyer. Sawyer understood what Beatrice was saying. She was saying Harper accompanied him for 10 years, and what did he give her? He stroked the person in the album, expecting her to appear in the next moment. While distracted, a familiar female voice entered his ears. Sawyer followed the sound and looked, seeing the person from the album standing vividly. The smile on her face disappeared instantly. She was tilting her head, whispering something to the person beside her, but walking step by step towards him. "Harper, why are you back?" Hearing her mother's voice, Harper just wanted to look up but was embraced into a familiar chest. A burst of cold fragrance rushed into her nose, making her frown uncomfortably. "Harper, it's me. I came to pick you up." Even the hands hugging her were trembling. Just as Harper was about to push him away, Beatrice and Zoe pulled Sawyer off. Zoe blocked in front of her, protecting Harper tightly behind her. Zoe was already extremely dissatisfied with Sawyer. Now seeing him come to pester Harper, she was instantly furious. "Sawyer, are you crazy? What face do you have to find Harper? Believe it or not, I'll call the police to arrest you." But Harper stopped Zoe and shook her head gently at her. Sawyer looked at Harper, who was behind someone else, never looking at him from beginning to end, treating him like a stranger. His heart instantly felt sour and uncomfortable. He had many words to say at this time, but when spoken, they all turned into one sentence. "Harper, will you go back with me, okay?" His voice was as light as could be, his tone almost begging and pleading. Zoe couldn't help wanting to hit him but forcibly held back. Harper looked at him and smiled calmly. "Why should I go with you?" From the moment she returned to the country, she knew that even if she didn't want to associate with him anymore, this matter had to have a result eventually. Before, she didn't care much, but now she suddenly wanted to know what explanation would Sawyer give. "I'm sorry, but things aren't what you think. Harper, listen to my explanation first." Harper listened to his explanation, still unmoved. How simple she was at 16, thinking sincerity could be exchanged for sincerity. She accompanied him for nearly 10 years, only to get the result of him questioning her sincerity. In exchange for him abandoning her again and again to test her, in exchange for her embarrassment from start to finish. How could it not be ironic? She waited 10 years without getting his answer. The time was so long she thought it would be like this for a lifetime. But speaking of short, leaving Sawyer turned out to be a matter of an instant. Harper was silent for a long time. Silent until Sawyer thought there was no chance. Silent until his face became paler and paler. Harper seemed to remember something and suddenly smiled and said, "Then if I go back with you, your fiancée, Nina, the light you have followed for so long, how should you explain to her?" Hearing Harper say this, Sawyer understood instantly. "Harper, you have to believe me. I will explain clearly to her and give you a complete answer. Will you give me another chance?" Harper sneered in her heart, but her face remained unchanged, nodding. "Okay, I can give you a chance." As soon as this was said, light suddenly appeared in Sawyer's eyes, his words carrying a trace of surprise and joy. "Harper, is what you said true?" Hearing this, Zoe and Beatrice's faces instantly became ugly. They both knew how much Harper had paid and sacrificed for him. Clearly about to welcome a new life, why recklessly agree to Sawyer again? Beatrice was so angry her voice trembled. "Harper, I brought out the album to tell him not to pester you. How free you were before meeting him, do you know what you're doing?" Facing her mother's questioning, Harper remained indifferent. "Mom, trust me. Give me time, I will handle it well." Immediately Harper looked at Sawyer, her expression calm. Since I gave you a chance, I also have to consider it. Wait until I finish attending the wedding the day after tomorrow. I will give you the answer you want then." Hearing this, Sawyer was excitedly beyond words. He knew Harper still had him in her heart, reluctant to let him go, so what if he waited a few more days? Aside from excitement, Sawyer couldn't help holding Harper's hand, careful as if treating a lost and recovered treasure, constantly murmuring, "Great, great." Harper was clearly smiling too, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. She had been by his side for more than 10 years and never saw him like this, only wanting to retrieve and cherish her after losing. Unfortunately, belated deep affection was worthless. Harper looked at the ecstatic man in front of her, feeling no waves in her heart. And Sawyer was still immersed in the joy of being able to retrieve her. He didn't notice the thick sarcasm revealing in Harper's eyes at all. Harper couldn't help being curious. When Sawyer saw her standing on the wedding stage, the day after tomorrow, what kind of wonderful expression would Sawyer have? But Sawyer still had some doubts in his heart. Why couldn't it be today or tomorrow? Why wait until the day after tomorrow? Holding such doubts, he spoke hesitantly. "But Harper, why the day after tomorrow?" Originally, after handling this, Harper didn't want to say another word. She pulled Zoe to go upstairs, but hearing this sentence, her steps paused. Why the day after tomorrow? The day after tomorrow was her wedding with Quinn, but she just smiled. "Giving you a surprise takes some time to prepare, right?" What surprise took so long to prepare? Even if Sawyer was still doubtful, seeing Harper willing to give him a chance and bluntly saying she was preparing a surprise for him, what harm was there in waiting a few more days? So he followed her wish. Seeing Harper still wanting to leave, Sawyer stopped her, a trace of expectation in his words. "Are you free tonight, Harper? We haven't eaten together for so long." "Why don't we?" Harper laughed like she heard a big joke. When abroad, she looked forward to Sawyer finding time to eat with her. Now hearing this from Sawyer's mouth, she was somewhat curious if Sawyer would be disgusted by his own humble attitude begging her. After all, Sawyer was always arrogant and high above in front of her. And this one sentence matter was only asked when he regretted it. But this time Harper didn't look back, saying calmly, "The bride is getting married the day after tomorrow. I have to make a traditional fan for her." However, this didn't affect Sawyer. How could he easily give up a hard-earned chance to start over? Sawyer walked out while thinking, taking out his phone to make a call. By dinner time, Harper and Zoe came downstairs. But the food hadn't been served yet, and the living room was inexplicably piled with various fresh flowers. Florists outside were still moving them in. The nanny looked embarrassed, seeming to want to say something but finding it difficult. Harper stopped in time, covering her nose, daring not to go downstairs again. Seeing Harper come down, the nanny helplessly told the truth. "These are all fresh flowers sent by Mr. Langley, saying he hopes Miss can agree to go out to eat with him tomorrow. But Miss, you have been allergic to pollen since childhood." Harper looked at those flowers and suddenly smiled sarcastically. At the same time her phone rang. It was Sawyer. Connecting, she heard his hesitant and worried tone. "Harper, do you like those flowers?" She didn't answer for a long time. Her gaze fell on the busy nanny, who was scolding people to move the flowers away. For a moment, Harper didn't know whether to be sarcastic or silent. Even the nanny at home knew she was allergic to pollen, yet she had been by his side for so many years. Did Sawyer not know, or did he know but never cared? Perhaps because she didn't love him anymore, she didn't even get angry about it. Over there, Sawyer continued, his tone carrying a trace of pleading. "Before, I thought too much, leading to things developing like this. In the future, I want to make it up to you bit by bit. I hope we can return to the past." Mentioning the past, Harper was in a trance for a moment. Return to the past days when she pestered Sawyer, return to the past where Sawyer suspected her sincerity all the time. No, she wouldn't go back, nor would there be a future. "Sawyer, I'm allergic to pollen." After hanging up, she told someone to throw all those flowers out, then turned and went out with Zoe. Sawyer stood not far from the Sterling family gate. Hearing this, his face instantly turned pale, and he couldn't even hold his phone steadily. He actually forgot Harper was allergic to fresh flowers. The person who liked fresh flowers was Nina. Just as he wanted to enter the Sterling house to apologize to Harper, he saw Harper and Zoe getting into a Rolls-Royce. After deciding on the wedding dress, today was to look at the venue layout. When Harper arrived at the place, she finally felt a sense of reality about getting married. She stood on the balcony as if in a dream, overlooking the surroundings decorated with artificial flowers. She hadn't told Quinn she was allergic to pollen, nor did she know how he knew, but this aspect alone was enough to see Quinn's importance. Moreover, there were expensive souvenirs and meticulous details. Quinn counted as having done everything perfectly and flawlessly. Seeing Harper silent, Quinn was a little nervous. "Harper, is there anything unsatisfactory?" "Unsatisfactory?" Harper shook her head. This was exactly what her dream wedding looked like. When she was 16, marriage was in her plan. As a result, due to a strange combination of circumstances, the groom was no longer that person. Fortunately, now everything was developing in the right direction. Even due to Quinn's decent practices in all aspects, like guarding her personally when trying on wedding dresses, preparing gifts without negligence when returning to the Sterling home to meet her parents, helping her block topics she didn't want to mention when taking her back to the Montgomery home. In short, respecting her in everything, stopping at the right point in everything. So good that Harper thought he was a robot set to only be good to her. Quinn was amused hearing this. "Since it's set like this, Miss Sterling, please accept it reluctantly. In the future, I will try hard to understand you, try hard to make you feel I am better." Harper gradually felt he was a pretty good candidate. Even the doubts in her heart were disappearing one by one. But perhaps the pace was too fast. Harper hadn't accepted these things for a long time. She was stunned for a moment, reached out like a cooperation, and said sincerely, "I am very satisfied." "Thank you, Quinn." Seeing her dumbfounded look, Quinn couldn't help finding her very cute, smiling and agreeing with her. "You're welcome, as long as you like it." And this scene was seen by Sawyer, who followed from a distance. Quinn, the Montgomery family. According to the Sterling family's status in Capital City, countless people wanted to climb social ladders with them. He remembered Harper saying the Montgomerys were friends made by Mr. and Mrs. Sterling. Considering this, she was good friends with them. Presumably, Harper was attending Quinn's wedding, but looking at the atmosphere between Harper and Quinn, he felt something was wrong. He heard Harper say she was satisfied with the venue, like a bride to be longing for everything unknown. Even if he didn't hear what Quinn said, but looking at Quinn's smile at Harper, he felt deep meaning. Instantly, nameless anger ignited in his heart. He wanted to rush up and question him, but seeing them just shaking hands and talking like friends, he didn't know what to do. Would rushing up rashly disturb Harper? But if he didn't ask, Sawyer felt inexplicably uneasy. Finally, reason triumphed over emotion because he believed Harper wouldn't lie to him. After all, she personally promised to give him an answer after the wedding ended. If Harper didn't have him in her heart, she would have refused him directly. How could she propose giving him an answer the day after tomorrow? Thinking of Harper saying she prepared a surprise for him, Sawyer was faintly excited. He would also propose to Harper at the wedding banquet to end this farce. Thinking of this, Sawyer suppressed the unease in his heart. Then, he took out his phone and dialed Nina's number. "I will attend the Montgomery family's wedding banquet tomorrow. You come with me then." Since everything was about to settle, he also had to resolve past matters. Doing this, Nina seeing him proposing to Harper personally could make her give up completely. Seeing Harper's group coming out of the venue, Sawyer recalled Harper saying she was allergic to pollen. Guilt filled his heart instantly. He clearly wanted to make up slowly, but disappointed her again. Harper, who just walked out of the venue, received Sawyer's message, saying he wanted to meet to apologize for the fresh flower allergy matter. Zoe looked sideways and saw it. She looked at her with concern. "Are you really going to see Sawyer? Tomorrow is the wedding. I'm afraid something will happen to you. What if Sawyer does something extreme again? I don't think he's a good thing." Zoe hated Sawyer from the bottom of her heart, always feeling he approached Harper with premeditation. Otherwise, Sawyer kept Harper by his side for many years, acting lukewarm and delaying giving a result, wasting her youth. Waiting until he did something wrong to regret, finding various reasons to explain and apologize, begging for her forgiveness wasn't this typical scum behavior. Truly disgusting. Harper smiled and agreed with Zoe's point of view, signaling her not to worry. She turned to look at Quinn. She pondered whether to tell Quinn about the past. That night at the bar, Quinn only heard some fragments. She could see Quinn was very curious about her, but he always respected her rights and freedom without any overstepping. Now she felt that even in a marriage alliance, Quinn had the right to know everything. Because they were getting married, they were husband and wife as one. "Quinn, didn't you say you wanted to understand me? To avoid misunderstandings or disruptions at the wedding tomorrow, come watch a play with me first." In the coffee shop, Sawyer looked at her for a long time before asking carefully, "Harper, it was my fault, but Sawyer, how long have we known each other?" Sawyer didn't know why Harper asked this. He took a deep breath and answered seriously. Even when Harper asked about old, trivial matters from the past, he answered one by one. Actually, Zoe was right. Speaking to the end, Sawyer was regretting his wrongdoings on one hand and begging for her forgiveness on the other. Harper finished the last of her coffee. "Finished? Then I'll leave first." Sawyer was stunned, not reacting. Subconsciously, he stepped forward to grab her. "Why? Harper, did you hear everything just now? Can you give me a chance?" Hear his regret. But Harper didn't come to hear his regret. She just borrowed his mouth to tell everything that happened in the past to her future person. She turned sideways to dodge his hand, her voice a few degrees colder. "You'll know tomorrow." When Harper went out, Quinn was standing quietly at the door waiting for her. Only after the car was on the road did the two speak, saying the first sentence so far. "Do you feel very uncomfortable? You can cancel the engagement if you want. I'll come to pick you up early tomorrow. Just wait for me obediently." His plain and gentle attitude stunned Harper. She originally thought that revealing her past would come at an incomparable cost. Even Quinn feeling it was unfair and canceling the wedding was possible. Unexpectedly, she got such a sentence in exchange. While she was dazed, Quinn added, "You don't need to worry about what I think. I'm very happy you were willing to tell me. As for the past, as you said, it's all in the past. There are less than 14 hours until we welcome a new day. If you want to beautifully tell him tomorrow that it's over between you, you can also use me a little. Besides, I can do a lot. Don't forget about the bar." Harper refreshed her perception of Quinn again in a trance. Seeing his broad-minded attitude, the stone in her heart landed. She remembered Quinn's smug look when they first met at the bar, hesitated for half a day, and smiled. "Do you really have nothing else to say?" "I do. He's not as handsome as me. Don't look at him anymore." Seeing he really didn't care about these things, Harper smiled and instructed him to drive safely, getting out of the car to go back and prepare for tomorrow's wedding banquet. The wedding banquet was held in the villa at 11. Sawyer rushed over at 9 in the morning. He rubbed the ring in his palm over and over again. This picture fell into Nina's eyes, becoming Sawyer thinking about how to propose to her. After all, hearing from friends that he returned to verify and coax Harper, the ring bought separately must be a surprise for her. Otherwise, why specifically ask her to attend the wedding banquet together? Nina hadn't participated in a wedding of this level. Hearing Sawyer say Harper was a bridesmaid, then who was the bride? At 10:30, the wedding was about to begin, and guests took their seats one after another. Nina looked around. "Sawyer, do you know who the bride is?" Sawyer frowned. He knew the only son of the Montgomery family, Quinn, managed the family business well at a young age. If asked which family in Capital City was a match for the Montgomerys, he really couldn't say for a moment. Nina wondered, "You are Harper's brother, you don't know these things." Hearing this, the guests beside them turned their heads in unison, looking at him with eyes full of shock. "Who? The Sterling family has a son? How come we haven't heard of it? Doesn't the Sterling family only have one daughter, Harper? We are still waiting for her, the bride, to come out now." Nina was also stunned. Beside her, Sawyer, whose hand was rubbing the ring, stood up abruptly upon hearing this sentence. Not knowing how long the silence lasted, his face became paler and paler before he asked hoarsely and tentatively, "Are you saying the Montgomery family is marrying the Sterling family? The bride is the Sterling family's daughter." "Harper, it's her. You came to the wedding without knowing this?" Sawyer took a deep breath, somewhat unstable. "No, how is it possible?" "How is it impossible? Our Montgomery family has no son. The Montgomerys and Sterlings are well matched and equal in strength. Much better than some who want to climb high branches. How is it wrong?" Hearing the familiar voice, Sawyer's brain buzzed. He could no longer hear any surrounding sounds. Suddenly learning this truth, his blood seemed to coagulate, rushing straight to the top of his head. Instantly, he lost the strength to refute, because the one speaking was Beatrice. He instantly lost direction like a headless fly. The ring was almost crushed in his palm. Just as he wanted to bypass Beatrice to find Harper, the MC on stage began to warm up the atmosphere, calling for the groom to enter. Immediately after, the MC held the microphone high, announcing the bride's entry. Sawyer froze in place. A white figure approached from the distance. Harper walked slowly towards the center of the stage, holding Mr. Sterling's arm. His gaze locked tightly on her, seeing her face. Even hidden under the veil, it couldn't block her bright and brilliant smile. Instantly, he seemed to lose all strength. Nina stood up in disbelief, knocking over the chair beside her. For a moment, surrounding gazes turned to her, with inquiry and confusion, also surprise and disgust. Nina realized she was deceived. Disregarding dignity, she picked up the wine on the table and splashed it on Sawyer, grabbing his collar to ask, "Sawyer, you are not a Sterling at all, yet you deceived me for so long. Buying the ring was playing me?" But Sawyer seemed to have lost his soul, his gaze locked tightly on Harper. Seeing he refused to respond, Nina realized and sneered in a low voice, "It seems you didn't know Harper was getting married today either. Then who is your ring prepared for?" Of course Sawyer didn't know. From beginning to end, he thought Harper was a bridesmaid. Just now he was fantasizing about the proposal scene, but unexpectedly, the wedding she invited him to attend was her wedding. Now he thoroughly understood why Harper chose to give him an answer today. So the surprise Harper mentioned was also this. The cost of this surprise was too great. Pain spread all over his body. He clenched the ring in his fingers, murmuring, Why did it become like this?" Nina was still grabbing Sawyer and not letting go. Sawyer pushed her away violently. "Didn't you also get together with me for money and the Sterling family? Besides, when did I admit I had a relationship with the Sterling family?" This sentence choked Nina. Just as she wanted to continue questioning, Beatrice called security. After all, this was a wedding banquet, not a noisy market. Fortunately, Harper reminded her early to arrange more security guards. Not long after, security guards dragged Nina out, ending this episode. While hesitating whether to take Sawyer together, Sawyer suddenly stood up. It turned out the ring exchange ceremony was taking place on stage. Quinn was about to put the ring on Harper. Sawyer pushed away the surrounding people like crazy and was about to rush to the stage. Fortunately, Beatrice had security stop him in time, dragging him hard out of the venue. Sensing the commotion off stage, Harper looked sideways, but her gaze only stayed on him for a moment, then moved away quickly. Looking down, she put the ring on Quinn, then took the microphone handed by the MC. This scene was infinitely magnified in Sawyer's eyes, but he had no way and could only watch helplessly. The MC finished reading the narration. Harper laughed with happiness, and that sentence, "I do," clearly passed into Sawyer's ears. After ending this wedding, Harper was so tired she slept at home for 3 days. Seeing this, Quinn let her be, preparing various meals for her on time himself, agreeing to her various boring and unreasonable requests. Even if there was noise, it was Harper making him angry yet helpless. Their plain and quiet days seemed to really have the sweetness of long-term love. Harper told these things to Zoe. Zoe's teeth were about to sour after hearing it. She cursed for a while, then seemed to remember something and said excitedly, "Harper, do you know what happened to Sawyer?" Hearing Sawyer's name, Harper frowned subconsciously. While deep in thought, she forgot to fasten her seatbelt. It was Quinn who put away the gifts prepared for the return visit and bustled about to fasten it for her. When the wedding ended, she heard Sawyer was driven away by security. Later, she holed up at home for days, having no leisure to ask about his news. Why did Zoe suddenly mention Sawyer? Just as Harper wanted to continue asking, the car stopped abruptly. Caught off guard, Harper's head bumped against the car window. While Quinn reached out his palm to rub it for her, he signaled Harper to look out the window with his eyes. Harper looked up. Her gaze was attracted by Sawyer at the gate of the Sterling residence. Not because he was attractive, but because his disheveled clothes and unshaven appearance made it hard not to look. Harper got out of the car and went forward to wake him up. "Sawyer, why are you here?" Sawyer opened his eyes to see Harper, his face carrying joy and surprise. He immediately climbed up from the ground and grabbed her hand involuntarily. The next second, Quinn pushed him away. "Mr. Langley, if I remember correctly, Harper is now my wife. If you touch her again, don't blame me for being rude." During this time, he didn't know where Harper's new home was and desperately wanted to see her again, so he could only guard the Sterling gate day and night, hoping to see her again. Now seeing her, the word wife left him speechless. He opened his mouth, his throat full of bitterness, but couldn't say a word. Harper guessed he should have been guarding the Sterling house for a long time. Since her parents didn't let her come back to deal with it, she absolutely couldn't let Sawyer continue to disturb them. "Sawyer, if you have anything to say, leave here first." Returning to the coffee shop from their last talk, Sawyer was no longer as spirited as then. Originally, Quinn didn't want Harper to be alone with him, but knew clearly that only by explaining clearly could she completely cut ties with Sawyer, so he could only wait reluctantly by the side. Harper watched the man in front of her quietly, her heart already waveless. After waiting for a moment, Sawyer took out a brand new diamond ring and placed it in front of Harper. "Harper, did you know? Originally, I wanted to propose to you that day." Harper glanced at the ring and gave a faint hum. Seeing her indifferent attitude, Sawyer smiled bitterly and asked unwillingly, "Harper, if I hadn't questioned your kindness to me, your sincerity, if I hadn't done so many wrong things, would it be different now? Maybe we would be married already, having a very, very good life, right? Sawyer, there is no medicine for regret in the world." Harper interrupted him. She firmly believed in what Zoe said. Men only know regret after doing wrong, wanting to use old memories to bind her again. But she had tried and erred for 10 years. She wouldn't repeat the same mistakes. Harper reached out, took off the ring Quinn put on her, and placed it on the level line of that ring. Looking at Sawyer, word by word, she spoke decisively. "See this? Because of it, because I don't like you anymore, I won't forgive you or give you a chance. Inviting you to the wedding was to take this opportunity to make you give up, so we can part ways decently. Can't we?" Word by word, he became more and more silent, belated regret sweeping over his body. Just as he wanted to explain, Harper spoke again. "Besides, you want to chase me back not only because you regret doing wrong, but for other reasons, right?" Hearing this, a trace of guilt flashed in Sawyer's eyes. Harper originally only heard the surface of Sawyer's explanation. Later, even Zoe felt the reason he gave was absurd and grotesque, but thinking carefully, it was indeed so. Harper smiled lightly and shook her head. "Sawyer, you said yourself the mistake was questioning my sincerity. Don't you question it now? And I feel you aren't regretting the mistake. You are regretting losing someone who was devoted to you, who treated you well for 10 years like a day. Only when I left did you know to regret. What were you thinking when you questioned me back then? I guess you didn't regret questioning my sincerity. You should be afraid that if one day I don't love you anymore, you will lose the Sterling family power behind me, thereby losing everything you have. Am I right, Sawyer?" Sawyer's face instantly turned pale, defending stiffly. "Harper, we've known each other since childhood and lived together for more than 10 years. Is that how you think of me?" Harper didn't speak again, pulling up the news Zoe sent her on her phone. And the protagonist in the news was Sawyer. It turned out Sawyer relied on the Sterling family name abroad. Even his work and attending major celebrity gatherings were the same. Actually, he hadn't been capable of achieving results since graduating from university. He was committing fraud everywhere under the identity of a Sterling family member. He didn't even have a real capital chain for the company. Not long after he returned, the foreign company was in chaos. "It's not how I think of you. You were like this from beginning to end. When I was 8, I saw you walk from the rugged mountain road to my Sterling house door. I saw the mud on you and your helplessness. Later, I saw you graduate from university and go abroad, threatening to carve out a path to thank the Sterling family for their help. I saw every step you took, but when did you start lying to me? You felt you should rely on yourself, yet feared the Sterling family really wouldn't help you, so you desperately strung me along, doing things that hurt me, finally apologizing with clumsy excuses, saying suspicion caused by loving me too much. Your thoughts made me unable to recognize Sawyer Langley clearly. Now, which stage of Sawyer is in front of me? You never liked me, you just felt I was still useful to you." She thought the young man from the mountains would have simple and unsophisticated thoughts, but didn't know when his thoughts became so deep. She couldn't read him long ago. When she saw clearly, she realized the person in front of her was just a liar who wanted to have his cake and eat it too. Sawyer was in disbelief, so angry his voice trembled. "Impossible. Who is this? Who released it? looking at Sawyer's exasperated appearance, it was nothing more than her guessing his mind correctly, leaving no face and poking through directly. Harper didn't care about his reaction at all, continuing. Who released it has nothing to do with me. I've said all I have to say. I remind you again not to disturb my family, otherwise, borrowing the things in that news, I have enough to sue you until you disappear. Understand. Voice falling, Harper put the ring back on her hand, turned off the phone, and got up. She had no patience to talk to him anymore and left directly from his side. The door opened, wind chimes rang, and the breeze blew. Capital City gradually felt like winter too. Harper hugged her arms and rubbed them, looking around for Quinn's car, when suddenly a coat was draped over her. Quinn handed her a cup of hot coffee and pulled her into his arms nonchalantly. Finished handling it. Let's go back to the Sterling house to see Mom and Dad. Harper choked, suddenly hearing the words Mom and Dad. She looked up at Quinn, finding this person quite familiar quickly. Not even half a month into marriage, he called Mom and Dad so smoothly, making her somewhat at a loss. But Harper thought about it. Since they were married, calling them that shouldn't be a problem. The two drove back to the Sterling house and exchanged pleasantries. Beatrice used the usual parents' rhetoric to educate them, telling Quinn not to spoil her too much and such. Speaking to the end, she even mentioned children. Harper is willful and stubborn. Quinn, you have to bear more. If she plays those extreme sports and hurts herself again, you must not care about her. Let her break an arm or leg to learn a lesson. We are assured with you, Quinn. Also, aren't you preparing to go out for a honeymoon or something? Honeymoon. Harper almost spat out water again. She perfunctorily said a few words and dragged Quinn to run away. For the next few days, Harper finished her work and only asked Zoe out for racing in her leisure time. Every time she came back, she found Quinn always particularly attentive, either serving her tea and water or cooking and cutting fruit, agreeing to almost everything. Sometimes the two would nest together playing games. Many things were surprisingly compatible, giving Harper the illusion of being an old married couple with him for many years. But suddenly one day, Quinn stopped being like this, making Harper uncomfortable. However, she thought since it was a marriage alliance, live if possible, forget it if not. She continued to live step by step until the winter solstice night. Quinn came home early, carrying various vegetables and fruits in his hand, busy making a large table of rich dishes for Harper. Harper hesitated. What's wrong? Quinn chewed vegetables and hesitated to speak. Harper waited until she almost lost patience. He finally spoke hesitantly. Harper, let's go on a honeymoon. I finished my work during this time and have a lot of free time to accompany you. If it doesn't work, it's fine. I was thinking of cultivating feelings. Hearing his explanation, Harper paused. Indeed, although they seemed compatible, they had to spend the rest of their lives together, so it was always better to understand more carefully. Harper nodded. Let's go then. You set the location. Hearing her words, Quinn's eyes lit up instantly. He took out his phone to book tickets to the Maldives without hesitation, so fast that Harper was amazed. On the morning of departure, Harper had just finished packing her luggage when Zoe suddenly rushed to the door with her phone. She stared at her mysteriously. Harper, forget the honeymoon. Do you remember Nina? Harper paused. Nina, hearing her name again, Harper felt like a lifetime away. Vaguely remembering seeing her at the wedding, at that time she sneered in her heart that Sawyer hadn't even handled Nina well and brought her to her wedding scene. Then Nina was driven out of the scene by security. When the wedding ended, she was too tired and had no leisure to ask about others' affairs. Zoe took out her phone and fiddled for half a day, flipping out a foreign news report, handing it to her like a treasure. Heard she hit Sawyer with a car, and she's going to prison herself. Harper's eyes widened suddenly. Taking the phone to look, she realized the news exposing Sawyer's fraud last time was done by Nina. This time, she squatted guarding Sawyer day and night and slammed the gas pedal, turning Sawyer into a vegetable. Zoe put away the phone, looking proud. I asked a friend in the U.S. to inquire. Didn't Sawyer claim he had a relationship with the Sterling family? Nina liked him seeing this point. As a result, she knew she was deceived at your wedding. She wanted to find Sawyer to ask clearly, but guess what? What happened? Sawyer refused to see her at all, unilaterally blocking Nina, spreading rumors in the circle that she interfered in his relationship. Nina waited hard until Sawyer returned to the U.S. After failing to get an apology and compensation fee after several negotiations, she did this in a rage. Harper remained silent after hearing her words. Actually, in a relationship between one man and two women, Harper generally attributed the fault to the man. If not for Sawyer's problem, she and Nina wouldn't have had an intersection. But at this moment, she didn't know how to describe it. Perhaps this was the trick of fate, but no matter what, it had nothing to do with her anymore. Harper looked up at the dazzling sun today, wrapping her with traces of warmth. Heard that people were greedy for warmth, even just an ordinary hug, even just a plain concern. She withdrew her gaze. Quinn stood in front of her. He put a scarf on her, chattering away. "It's windy outside. Wear more so you don't catch a cold."